What's going on, everyone? Welcome on in to another episode of Golf on Tap. As always, I'm Jack Bushman, joined by Ross Baran. Make sure to go and give Ross a follow on X at RossJohn22. You can find me at Jack Bushman2. Show some love to the show's page as well at On Tap Golf. And if you haven't done so already, make sure to go and throw us a follow on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Won't cost you anything. It's 100% free. That way, if you're not able to join us live, you're still able to catch up on all of the latest episodes. And this episode in particular today, Ross, is an absolute beefy one. We got basically everything that possibly could have happened this weekend seemingly went down. We have loads of topics to cover. I'm super excited to get into it, brother. How are you doing?
I'm ready to talk golf, man. It doesn't even feel like it all was the same weekend because so many things happened, but here we are.
Yeah, and it's hard to even find one main starting point because, like you said, so many things went down. The whole Scottie Scheffler incident feels like 2 weeks ago because of everything that went down this weekend at Valhalla. But first, I think we just got to start with the tournament winner, Xander Schauffele, breaking through finally for his first career major championship. Felt like only a matter of time with the way that he had been playing, but still had to slay all of those past demons of the times that he had come up short. We had seen it multiple times within the last couple of months, obviously, most recently at Wells Fargo the week prior when Rory chases him down. There was also his ghost of a back nine at the Players' Championship when Scottie Scheffler was creeping up there. And not to add all just the close calls that he's had in his major career and his PGA Tour career. Finally, Xander was able to slay all of those demons on the back nine on Sunday. And it feels just that he is a PGA champion, finally a major champion, because we've known for a long time, Ross, that he was talented enough to do it. I mean, outside of Scotty, he really has been the most consistent player on tour this season and continuously knocking on the door. Or even he said he keeps doing that. Something is bound to go his way. Finally, it happened for him in the biggest setting in a long time, snapping a 2-year win drought. I know that the course and everything and a bunch of different storylines maybe are going to be different talking points, but Xander coming away with major number one, I felt it is only right to talk about first here, Ross. Let me also say congratulations for hitting on that Xander outright. I know lots of people, including myself, were not really wanting to go back to him. For me, it was just being at that number. Like I knew Xander could do it. Like I said, I believe in his talent. I know what he's capable of, but when it was just head to head with Brooks Koepka, someone who's proven himself in majors, whereas Xander had yet to do that in terms of getting across the finish line, I lean towards Brooks. I know I'm not the only one out there who made that decision. So I just want to say good hit, Ross. And what was it like watching Xander on Sunday? Because I know you and all of his backers out there, along with a guest of ours recently, Christopher Powers, managed to hit that Xander outright as well, and had a little bit of a victory lap for himself on that Sunday afternoon, dunking on all those bookmark tweets. So how'd you enjoy watching Xander down the stretch, and your thoughts on him finally breaking through for his first major title?
Well, I thoroughly enjoyed Sunday because my Sunday card, at least when we were when we started off, I had out of my five, I had Xander, Colin, and Bryson sitting pretty. So I was like, please don't be Victor Hovland. Was like my only concern. Was like, I swear to God, if I'm 3 out of 5 right here, and it's gonna be one of the only guys that I wrote off, like standard for me. That of course has happened just about every week. It's always the one that I didn't throw in there and comes and gets it. But no, I think I was having some secondary conversations with some of our other guys for On Tap, like Bruno from college football, and we were just joking around, and I was saying like my wallet wants Bryson, but my heart needs Xander because, like you said, Xander is just realistically he's the best player in the world that doesn't have his, and he's well overdue for it. So, and I know there is always the Sunday breakdown that's pretty standard for Xander. Just the way he handled it. I mean, we didn't really have a hiccup until the 10th hole, and he rebounded it right away. And I think that was one of the crucial moments where you're like, okay, this isn't the same Xander we're seeing. And I mean, he was pretty much even par the whole way through, but that's kind of how majority of the field played Sunday. Was there's a handful of guys that were really going low, but no one really at the top was doing anything considerable. Where Xander already had a nice little cushion lead going into this thing, and he just kind of stayed on pace. And I think it was that big moment of when he finally had a slip up that he came back and got it right back. And that was, I think, all of us in our group chat to the side were like, "Oh, that's different." Like,
Yeah.
okay, like we still got a ball game here. And then with Bryson putting the pressure on the final hole and get to 20, there was just something felt different for Xander on that hole where it had a little bit of trouble getting up there. But when he got up there, the vibe just seemed different. Like this was gonna be it. Like he, you could tell he's not playing for the playoff. You could look and see like easily. You wouldn't even blame him for like, fuck it. It's a two-man show moving forward here. Like let me get up and down. Me and Bryson will go back and we'll do this all over again. Could easily taken that route right after how that whole started, but once he got up there, you could just see like, oh no, he's gonna try to do this right now and just not even leave it up to fate. And obviously, we got a little bit of a toilet bowl action on the putt, but he dropped it, and Xander got what I think is well overdue and well deserved for him. And I think it's better for the game of golf moving forward that we have another major champion at the top of the world rankings.
Yeah, completely agreed. Absolutely justified. And I do think Xander probably played the most steady golf of the entire week compared to everyone. Not a whole lot of mistakes. And as you mentioned on Sunday, it came gut check time after he made a pretty sloppy six at the par 5/10. And, I'm sure everyone out there who's familiar with Xander and all his close calls and all his kind of ho hum Sundays were like, oh shit, here we go again. But just responded back up against the wall and threw a dart in there at 11, threw a dart in there at 12, and really got momentum back for himself and just getting that reassurance that, hey, I'm still that guy. I can go out here and do this. Had that gritty up and down on 17 as well to go to the last all tied up with Bryson. And yeah, it felt kind of almost like a picturesque of what Xander needed to do to get over that finish line. You can't just go and make the five there. You got to go and make the four. And it's almost like he recognized it over that shot. And I thought it was interesting, Dottie Pepper on the broadcast pretty much felt like it was just going to be an assured layup because of the moment. But I think it also helped, obviously, that the bunker wasn't very steep. And even though the ball was above his feet, it wasn't, super crazy or anything. But I think he also just recognized that, hey, to be the man and win these things, you got to step up and have those moments and you got to make those shots when they count the most. And he absolutely did that. And man, I have been on the wrong side of a couple end of lipped putts this year. Ross Wyndham, obviously, at the Players, and then this one for Xander as a Bryson ticket holder. I was really hoping that he was going to find a way to make that five there because I'll tell you what, if that thing goes to a playoff, Ross, I do not like Xander's chances. I think he'd be super deflated. I don't exactly remember what holes or what routing it would be for the playoff, but I'm sure 18 would be in there. And, Xander's not short, but Bryson's the longest guy out there. Absolutely, that gives him an advantage to possibly get on the green in two and have that eagle putt. So, yeah, Xander needed to make that four there to cross that finish line. It almost felt like justified, not just that win, but the way in which he got it done. It was like, yes, he actually had to go and earn it himself, absolutely, and he sure did that. And it made for a super, even though I did want Bryson to win, it made for a super great story. And like I said, I recognize that Xander absolutely is well deserving of this and been knocking on the door for far so long. It's well past this time that he's finally got this. So I'm sure it had to be super bittersweet for him. And very interested to see kind of where he's going to go from here, if he's going to be able to keep up this run, because his 2024 has been excellent so far. And hope he'll be even more motivated moving forward with 2 majors left here in the year, Ross. But we got a boatload of other guys we got to talk about too, on top of Xander Schauffele. I don't know if you got one final thought that you want to mention about your boy here before we jump over.
I did want to think after Sunday that Xander gave us one last opportunity for the treasure that is Johnson Wagner to go out and try to redo that shot and have the yips one more time.
Johnson Wagner, always a great. I mean, the chipping yips earlier on in the week were, I mean, I feel for the guy, but it was must see TV. Absolutely.
I laughed so hard because it was well an hour after everything had wrapped, and I was watching just the Golf Channel's coverage, which they actually focused and covered a little bit of golf, surprisingly. But I laughed so hard that it was like an hour after, maybe almost an hour and a half after the ceremonies had wrapped up, that Johnson Wagner was out there. And I remember I opened up Twitter and I jumped on and I was like, oh my God. And I remember just as I was posting, I looked and I saw like Kyle Porter from CBS was posting the same thing. Like, fuck yes, we got one more.
One last Johnson Wagner before signing out for the second major championship of the year. But like I said, plenty of other guys that made this thing interesting. I mean, it was a super stacked leaderboard down the stretch, and that's absolutely what you want. We'll share some thoughts on Valhalla here in a little bit, but next guy we got to talk about is the man who made it a close call for Xander Schauffele, and that was Bryson DeChambeau. I figured this was going to be such a good setup for him, even though the course didn't play exactly how I thought it was going to. Bryson's length still gave him an advantage here, and what he was able to do on Sunday, and also just Saturday afternoon too, just electrifying moment after electrifying moment, fist pump after fist pump, chipping in. The dog that Bryson DeChambeau has is absolutely undeniable, man. How he stepped up there and hit every big time shot. He made every clutch putt. You know, he's not really known as a scrambler, but he was scrambling his ass off all week long, making the putt on 18 to get in at -20. I was hoping it wasn't enough, but outside of the winners, Xander Schauffele and Jeff Darlington, who we'll get to a little bit later as well, I think Bryson DeChambeau is absolutely one of the biggest winners from this week, showing everyone again that he has the goods. Not that we really didn't know that. I mean, the guy was in contention at the Masters, but didn't have himself the best weekend, but showing everyone that he's still that big game hunter, one of the best players in the world, and also just must-see TV in the game of professional golf. It's so glaring how much the PGA Tour misses Bryson and how many fans he probably gained over the weekend, and seeing the kind of crowd join in on him. It was absolutely awesome, man. I loved watching Bryson give it everything he's got down the stretch and didn't hang his head whatsoever. I mean, shooting 64 on Sunday in the final round of a major championship, there's nothing to hang your head about. He did everything that he could, essentially, and it was cool to see him show Xander the respect and take the time to sign autograph for kids, also get that kid his golf ball back after that old dude stole it. So just an absolutely big-time win of a week for Bryson DeChambeau, Ross.
Yeah, and I know the live bots are always going to find a way to misconstrue this. When Bryson left initially, to me it wasn't like a huge thing. I wasn't a huge Bryson guy, but over time with like the presence of like YouTube golf and like how he presents himself and puts himself out there and how personable he's become, and not so much like this systematic golf robot that he had built himself into. Aside from Brooks, I truly just miss having Bryson on the tour and have really come around to it's just a different presence when he's around, and you need that type of personality and player that he's kind of become in the past couple of years. We really do need to get him back on, and and that's just him as a person. When you put what he did this past weekend on top of it, it really just shows like where we need to move all these things forward and get someone like Bryson back on, because it's better for golf. He needs to be on our screen every single week, not some boo-foo channel that we have to watch at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, he was getting me going all weekend long, man. The huge putts, the chip ins, the fist pumps. And whether you like him or hate him, you're watching because that's just how Bryson is. And I've always kind of been someone who's liked Bryson and always thought he was intriguing and someone that will just turn over any stone possible to get better at the game, just a master tinkerer, a master grinder. But I will say, since he's gone to live and he's been able to kind of market himself on YouTube because has his media rights and he can go and grow that channel and show some sides of himself in professional golf and also playing with big guys, big names in the YouTube golf community. Like Bryson DeChambeau is absolutely one of the most popular figures in men's professional golf, and it's a crime that we only get to see him against the best on the PGA Tour 4 times a year because this man's must-see TV, whether you love him or hate him. He's a heck of a golfer. He mashes it 1,000 yards. He's using 3D printed irons, and he's just a good dude, and he's willing to take you inside on his YouTube channel and talk about things, be open about things. And I just think there's so much to like or relate to about Bryson. And as this game of golf hopefully only continues to grow and grow, I think it's hard pressed to not say that Bryson DeChambeau doesn't have an impact on that. I think he absolutely has a big impact on this game. And yeah, this weekend was a good reminder of why he's still one of the best players in the world. Bryson is back, and also why the PGA Tour needs to figure this thing out because they need guys like Bryson back to make this thing interesting. Really believe that Bryson played a big factor in what I assume the ratings to be pretty good this weekend, along with multiple other storylines as well. But another player who gave Xander Schauffele a good run for his money, Ross, was Mr. Victor Hovland, who you referenced earlier, the one guy who you were hoping wasn't going to be able to pull this thing out. He unfortunately got the Mr. Tony Marchese curse going into Sunday, so he absolutely stood no chance. Quite honestly, I just based on the guys who were on the leaderboard, Ross, going into that Sunday. I know it's easy to say 2020, but I promise I was thinking like the two guys who are most justified to win this thing are Xander Schauffele and Bryson DeChambeau, because still to me, Colin Morikawa, while he's shown signs of life recently, I still feel like he's still putting it all together a little bit, whereas Xander's been at that top of his game. Bryson's been at the top of his game. Sahith, was his first time there. Lowry and Rose had incredible rounds on Saturday. Didn't really expect them to follow that up. So I figured it was going to be Bryson and Xander down the stretch. I really did. But Victor Hovland obviously threw his hat into the mix with a couple of incredible birdie stretches there. And we talked about Victor on the show leading into this week, Ross, that he's been a ghost for most of 2024 thus far, but it felt like this was a really good opportunity for him to potentially bounce back. And I called it a potential get right spot for him. He did more than just that. Obviously makes the bogey at 18, but didn't really matter at that point. Had a putt potentially to get to minus 20, but just reminded everyone that, 1 week can kind of change everything. And now the question is Victor back? Are you ready for him to go on another run like he did late last season? What are you kind of expecting out of Victor following this, and your thoughts on his performance this week, Ross?
Well, it's Tony, when he joined us last week, brought up like, where is Victor? And I went and said what the issue is Victor went and did the whole Bryson DeChambeau experiment where, yes, I'm playing the top of my game, but how do I get better? He departed from his whole team, his coaches, everything. He started from scratch. He wanted to go somewhere else and see, if I'm playing this good, how much better can I get with, X person? And it turned into not very good at all, man. You kind of suck now. And he brought his whole team back this week to the point where it was so new that he admitted halfway through he was so new at working with them again and getting back on track that he almost withdrew from this event because he was in a scramble trying to figure it out. He was literally between coaches, going from one to the other, and he did not feel good about the game in that transition, but he showed up anyway. And I think we have the Victor we expect back. I think this was a huge confidence boost. Obviously, he did pull out of Charles Schwab this week. Yeah. Gonna be a tough one, but I think it's honestly gonna be a good thing for him, because if he just showed up at Valhalla and played that way, at a 50% clip, how he was feeling, what's another week away just dedicated with his team going to be when he comes back? I think you're looking at firing it on all cylinders. If he only had a couple days with his previous coach going into Valhalla and was able to pull that out with just minor changes, I want to see what, a week and a half away with his team does for him and just a mental reset. And honestly, I would almost say the season starts now, and I'm not going to be surprised to see him rattle off a few real quick.
And he's been one of those guys who have said, like, if he's not feeling good going into a week, he's not going to play. He wants to go back and practice. And so I wasn't surprised to see him pull out of this tournament. Like you said, it's probably smart for him just to get that extra week back with his old, now new team once again and just get everything kind of sort of back on kilter. But it's okay, Ross. Don't worry. I know he's not going to be at the Charles Schwab Challenge this week, but Wesley Bryan is going to be. Did you see his tweet on X about that, by the way, which was great, about being Victor's replacement? I thought that was hilarious.
Well, it's Wesley Bryan in general, where he is just a treasure to the game of golf. Him and George, just all their content is phenomenal, and especially they're real golfers. It's not like a YouTube joke or anything. Like, they're pros. They just happen to share the life of a pro, and always great to see someone like Wesley get an invite and get into these things. And even though we lose Victor, we probably lose Victor for the better for a week. He's like we said, he's going to go off. He's going to figure this shit out. He's going to come back firing on all cylinders. And then I think it's look out for the rest of the tour for a little bit.
Yeah. Interested to see. I am going to expect he's not going to play the RBC Canadian Open, likely going from Memorial to the US Open the week after that, if I'm imagining things right for Victor. It's just my idea, but really curious to see what's going to be happening with him around the green, man, because obviously Joe Mayo was the nutty professor, if you will, behind all of his around the green success that he had last season that spurred him to winning the PGA Tour, winning the FedEx Cup. Obviously a big time finish to the season last year for Victor. This week, though, he has always been a little bit better in terms of like thicker rough around the green. Major championship wise in his career, he has been a little bit better with that thicker rough. So I do wonder if it's going to take a few more weeks for him to get fully right with his around the green play when it's not always just the thicker rough. When it's shaved off, sometimes it could be a little bit trickier for him soon. I'm just interested to see how his developments around the green are going to go from here, because obviously a lot of people are going to be expecting big things out of Victor after finishing near the top of the leaderboard last week. Collin Morikawa also, though, Ross, in the final pairing with Xander Schauffele, as he was during the final round at the Masters a couple of weeks ago as well. Couldn't make a putt to save his life on Sunday. 33 feet of putts, made just 2 putts outside of 3 feet all day long. And that's what's going to happen on a course like Valhalla when it's as soft as it is on Sunday. If you're not making putts, you're not really going to stand a chance. And I don't know if Morikawa can be too upset about not putting that great on Sunday, because it felt like he was making everything through those first 3 days, at least in my opinion. And as I referenced earlier, I don't know what it is about him. And I've also never been able really to read Collin Morikawa correctly in terms of like when I bet on him and whatnot. So this may not mean anything whatsoever, but I still didn't feel like his game is all together to go and win a major championship. His third at a young age, only 2 other golfers, I believe, had he have won, would have gotten the third at this time in history. So I don't know. What were your kind of thoughts on Morikawa's chances going into this weekend and his performance on Sunday as well?
Well, I mean, I did put Collin on my card, and I don't know exactly what it has been, but there was go back maybe 2 months, and there was a point where you and I would not even consider Collin Morikawa being anywhere near our cards, because the irons, everything was god awful. Like, he couldn't hit his irons to save his life, and he basically had one of his worst iron performances I've ever seen. And then like the next week, he's like floating around like T3 the whole time. And whatever reason, I kind of rode the momentum, like, all right, we'll see. And I think he was like 30-1 or whatever, like the following week. And he did like another top 5. And ever since then, it's just kind of been rolling with Collin Morikawa that the irons are on right now. It's, can we knock down putts? Where, his number, I think I got him at like 26-1. And so I threw him on the card. He was up in that Bryson area where I was like, all right, someone is the guys I think that are going to win are going to come from this range. And in the big moments lately in the majors, Colin has been up towards the top of the board. So let's take a flyer here. But it's always that last day right now. That last day, he just kind of pars out. And I think maybe we're going to see a Xander trend. I mean, realistically, I'm hoping we're going to see a Xander trend for Colin we've had so many close calls over the past 2 months with Colin being right there, but kind of just coming up. Honestly, if you want to say it, a half day short. There's really, it's one thing if you can par out the front nine on Sunday, that's great because it means you're holding your spot. It's when we hit the back nine, kicking it into gear and going low and staying in contention, which he didn't do. So we're at a 3.5 day mark on Colin. I don't think we're too far off if he can keep this up from him breaking through on day 4 and us starting to make some decent money off of Colin. But like you said, he is young. There is a lot of time to develop, but I think we are trending the right way. And he's giving me a lot of those Xander vibes right now of he's in the ballpark. It's probably going to be another few tournaments of success to kind of put it all together and figure out that moment. But I think we're trending the right direction with him, where again, later in the year, do not be surprised to see Colin kind of go on. I mean, he's already on a run realistically with his finishes, but go on a deeper run where we're actually seeing the true T2s or just winning outright and putting a full, fourth round together.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel the same way, and I think the Xander effect or whatever it may be is a good way to put it too, because there's kind of those same vibes around Colin Morikawa that there have been around Xander Schauffele here for a little bit. I think even entering this week, and when Morikawa is at 12 or 14-1, I think a lot of people aren't going to want to bet him at that number after he didn't really have a very good Sunday, but it was the exact same logic that I had of not being on Xander last week. So it does kind of feel eerily similar, and I completely agree. I don't think Colin Morikawa is very far off, and I do think he's going to nab his first win of 2024 here rather soon. Obviously, he won during the FedEx Cup fall at the Zozo, but is yet to win during the PGA Tour calendar season that they've now re-implemented this year. Some other guys that I did want to shout out, though, real quick, even though it wasn't a good Sunday for him whatsoever, seeing Sahith being, in those final pairings at a major championship, I didn't expect Sunday to go very well for him, if I'm being just quite honest, knowing that I don't want to call him like a nervy player, but I think he even embraces himself as a little bit of an emotional player. And I just felt like that was going to be a lot to ask out of him at that moment. Although when he made that 60-footer at 1, I'm like, oh boy, I'm all here for Sahith making a run. I don't know if I want him to steal my Bryson money, but would be pretty cool to see Sahith make a run. But just continuously playing really good golf. Now up to number 12, crazy enough, in the official world golf ranking. Kind of similar to Colin Morikawa, but I think his longevity has been better throughout the course of the season. Like Sahith continuously is knocking on the door, and I fully expect him to get a win before the end of the year, Ross.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Sahith is also just on that perfect trend right now. And I think the most important thing is, like you said, he is an emotional player. I think we're the breakthrough, and we've tabbed Sahith multiple times over the course of this year that the potential of a superstar in the making is there. But the way that we get there is him putting himself in these environments, in these situations, and having to deal and battle the nerves. Where I don't think it's going to come right away. I don't think we're going to see a major win for Sahith right now, but I think it's playing in the third to last group on Sunday at a major, those vibes, that pressure, that kind of stuff adding up for him over time is what is going to lead to the breakthrough of Sahith gets one. And not even a major, but just the big signature event victories. It's consistently putting yourself in that platform, in that stage, and getting used to that nerves and that energy and playing through it. The only way to do it, the only way to get it done is to be there. And I think he's doing a very good job over the course of the season, consistently playing himself in there. It hasn't shown up on the scorecard to end the tournament yet, but it's the fact that he's playing himself into that situation routinely. And as long as he continues to do that, I think the sky's the limit really for him in the future also to start breaking through and getting these, because he's got the game to do it. It's more, does he have the nerves and the willpower to push through it and get it done?
Yeah, I think so. He's RBC, so I think he'll probably be at the Canadian Open next week. I don't know if I like him there, but I know he has a great track record at the Travelers, the tournament that he almost won before as well in the past. So there are a couple events coming up that I'm going to make sure to have Sahith Theegala and probably Colin Morikawa Circle Memorial, another Jack Nicklaus to sign like we just saw this week. Just something to keep in mind as we move forward, Ross. A couple other guys I wanted to shout out. Some old balls. It was kind of an old ball leaderboard. It was like an old ball Saturday afternoon, man. Shane Lowry shooting 62, so close to setting the major championship record. He had a putt for it on 18 on Saturday afternoon. And Justin Rose as well. And he didn't like go away on Sunday. It wasn't like he just had that one magical round. He followed that up with a really, really solid Sunday. And coming into this week, a place that he's won before with some really good form. But I always do just like seeing in general the old guys popping up. Just a good reminder that these guys still have what it takes. And I know it hasn't really been the greatest season for Justin Rose, but Shane Lowry feels like he's just another guy who, I mean, we've been saying this kind of for years about Shane, but he's been right there and closing in a couple of times. But I always enjoy seeing some of these guys who are a little bit older always have major championship success as well, Ross.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And, it's one of those things that always plays into, yes, as Shane Lowry and like probably on the wrong side of where he should be in his career. Absolutely. But then you got to think, we had players like Vijay Singh not even get a professional win until they were in their late 30s, right? Where we have these Hall of Fame golf careers still happen. Shane's still playing good golf. He's playing himself into contention. He's hanging around. He's pulling the same shit as Colin, everyone, where we're putting 3.5 days together. The fourth day needs to come through. But the thing is, the golf he's playing, it's not like that fourth day is impossible at all with how he's playing. It needs to happen,
Yeah.
but it's totally still there. Where if you were to tell me like, oh, Shane Lowry by the end of the year, Shane Lowry won 2 events this year. If we fast forward 8 months, if going off the track record we currently have, I would not be surprised to find out like in the midsummer Shane went and closed out 2 events, whatever. I would not be surprised if you told me something like that.
Yeah, he's certainly capable. It's just kind of like that Sunday thing. It's same
Yeah.
for a lot of guys, man. And the poor PGA Tour, their account on X did not do Shane Lowry any favors. Literally minutes before his tee time, they said he was 38 for 38 on putts from 5 to 8 feet going into Sunday. And I was like, you folks clearly have never watched Shane Lowry in contention on Sunday before, because that's the first thing that usually goes for him is he's not able to make putts on Sunday. What does he do? He watches Sahith drain a 60-footer on one and then misses a 5-footer of his own. I'm like, oh, there's probably the end of Shane Lowry. But I do hope, I mean, he's a fun character and we know he's plenty capable. Like we saw with the round he put together on Saturday. Hopefully he'll be able to keep riding this form and put something together here in these next couple of weeks. Some other guys I wanted to give shout outs though too as well. Billy Horschel with like maybe the quietest major top 10 of all time. I think the only shot we saw of Billy all week long was his eagle on 18. It's like, oh, Billy Horschel shot, what was it, 64 on Sunday? It was like, oh, that would have been, fun to watch him escalate up the leaderboard because Billy Ho, obviously someone we both love on the show here and just continuously playing great golf after he's got that club degree change a few months ago or whatever it was. He's playing some of the best golf that we've seen from him in a long time, Ross.
Yeah, I mean, and once again, you hit it on the head with. I would have loved to have any update prior to when he's, literally holing out that, oh, Billy Ho is putting this round together. That would be great to see because we love Billy Ho. But, oh, no, we're going to show you drop the eagle. And actually, that just concluded his round. He is now in the top 10. well, where the fuck was that 3 hours ago when he was making noise?
Dude, by the way, CBS hated Bryson on Saturday. There was nothing more that they wanted for him to play like shit and not be part of the story. And that's so wrong, dude. So wrong when all the things we just outlined, how Bryson is this known person on Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, YouTube golf community. There is an outreach of people who want to watch him. And also, he was one of the most tipped players going into this week. Like, someone that was on a lot of people's cards. And boy, they didn't want to show him for shit on Saturday. I was like, the only way this guy's going to get any TV coverage is if he earns it. And I'm so thankful he did. And I hope gave them a good reminder of all the fist pumps that he had and, you know, the big roars and the big cheers. Like, this is why you put the guy on the television screen. I don't give a fuck why some of these guys at -2, I'm seeing their birdie putts, and Bryson's 3 off the lead, and I'm missing his drives or full holes entirely, man. It was a joke, per usual.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll get a little deeper into some of our other stories as we go, but we have some other gripes to cover about just coverage in general.
Valhalla. What were you saying?
Yeah, it was very apparent that Bryson was only going to get on TV by making them put him on TV, and thank God he did.
Dude, I get it. I get it. The deal that CBS has is with the PGA Tour, but come on, you can't just blatantly block somebody out like that who is as polarizing a figure in the game that we kind of have right now. It was just a big time slap in the face. But all in all, Ross, we'll just get into the full bow tie here on just Valhalla as a course, this entire tournament as a whole. It was kind of just a tough week for Louisville. And obviously the big one is Scottie Scheffler getting arrested on Friday morning with, you know, still kind of a confusing situation that went down. I know, fortunately, Jeff Darlington of ESPN was right there on the zine to provide the coverage, or else, you know, who knows what we would have known, because Golf Channel absolutely dropped the ball. They literally didn't have any coverage of what was going down with Scottie Scheffler throughout the course of the week. So there's all this stuff going on with Scottie, the Golf Channel, the one channel that's, you know, supposed to talk about golf, show golf. Oh, wait, they never seemingly do that. Thank God Jeff Darlington was on the scene, outside of Xander, probably the biggest winner of this week, getting that video of Scottie Scheffler getting booked and being able to exactly describe what went down. Ross, I was not ready for the lightning storm that I woke up to on Friday morning, seeing Scottie Scheffler, of all people, getting arrested. I had to like double bat my eyes, being like, Scottie Scheffler arrested. Out of the 155, 156 guys in the field, probably would have been the last 5 that I would have guessed to have found himself in a jail cell before his Friday tee time. Take me through what was going on through your mind when all of this is getting announced, and just kind of your thoughts on the situation, knowing what we do now.
I rolled over about 6:15 in the morning, getting ready for work, to seeing my phone blow up from my mother. And I was thinking, oh God, you know, what happened? So then I realized she's just saying, Scottie arrested. And like my first thought was like, with emotion? Like, was he arrested with emotion? Like, no, he wasn't actually arrested. And then I open up Jeff Darlington. There's world number 1 in handcuffs being led to a car, to me running around through the dark, scrambling to turn on any lights and jump on the computer and try to figure out like what the hell is happening right now. Yeah, I did not have that on my bingo card. Not even for the PGA Championship, like for life. I did not have Scottie Scheffler in handcuffs, like, ever being a thing I visioned. Golf does have a good bad boy group with mugshots, though. That was a win for the PGA Tour when they put him next to Tiger and John Daly up there, just to see the 3 bad boys. But like you said, props to Jeff Darlington. I think absolutely crushed it for essentially being put on the spot. Like, not really having a choice. Like, oh, you were there, you can just take this. Basically, the biggest story we may have this year, and like on the spot, rolling like, no, this is yours. You get on the TV, you tell us everything, you have all the information. He absolutely crushed it, and it was like for 4.5, 5 hours before he really got a break that he was on the TV about every 5 minutes, recapping with updates, everything. The only time it disappeared was they would pan over to Marty Smith and see if Marty Smith had seen the escort car show up yet.
Yeah, he absolutely crushed it, man. So thankful that he was able to describe everything that went down and kind of at least paint a picture of what could have possibly happened, because there's a lot of confusion exactly how this happened. I mean, especially knowing Scottie Scheffler and like having this high reputation, being a super good guy, a man of God, someone who's talked about very highly by his peers for like being as good of a player as he is. Most people say he's an even better person. Obviously, I wasn't there. I don't know exactly what happened, but it's very hard to imagine that Scottie Scheffler would have purposely done something wrong or done something different than, someone else would have done, just another player trying to get into Valhalla to make their tee time. And obviously, he was unaware at the time as to the unfortunate situation that led to a PGA of America vendor passing away, unfortunately, which is just super tragic, and led to the escalated police on the site. That was a tough part of this too, Ross, was, the police that were handpicked for this event. I heard this from Danny Rappaport was, the police that were there for the tournament were guys who volunteered, were familiar with golf and the sport and some of these guys. But with that unfortunate situation that unfolded, there was the heightened police activity there. And, the officer who ended up arresting Scheffler wasn't one of those cops who was originally designated to be at Valhalla. So just a wild and wacky situation. Even though, like, I still can't believe they put him in a jumpsuit and took him in a mugshot. Like, that just feels so excessive at that point in time. And to put him in a jail cell, um, there was a lot of just strange things going on. Scotty stretching in a jail cell for the first time in his life, still able to make his tee time, which is rather fortunate, Ross, because could you imagine the kind of nightmare it would have been had Scotty Scheffler, the number one player in the world, who, I mean, I know this may sound like a reach, but legitimately has a chance to win the Grand Slam this year. I know winning 4 majors in a year is quite a feat, but with the run that he's been on, like, I don't think anyone would put it past Scotty going out and doing that. Could you imagine what that would have caused? I mean, obviously it's a situation of its own, everything that he had to deal with, but he was still able to go out there. It somehow could have been even worse had he not been able to go back out there and forced to WD, Ross.
Well, I was laughing because in the early morning coverage, they were getting into that there's this secret buried rule in the PGA rule book that for extenuating circumstances, a player's time can be moved. And they're like asking the tour official on site, like, would this count? And he's like looking in the camera, trying to hold a straight face, like, you bet your ass this rule would be enforced in this case.
Yeah.
Like there is a rule for one reason. It is basically never used, but I would say this is probably the one time we dig this one out.
It would absolutely fit the bill. But talking about Valhalla as a whole, obviously that's always going to be like the one thing people are going to remember from the 2024 PGA Championship is Scottie Scheffler getting arrested.
And then firing off a 66.
And then going and firing off a 66, which is one of the most incredible things ever. Obviously, ran out of gas a little bit there on Saturday. Didn't have his normal caddy Ted Scott, and I think he was probably running on some adrenaline on Friday, and that might have fizzled off a little bit on Saturday. But I mean, to go out and fire the score that he did, and birdie in the first hole, making a statement right off the rip. It was like, oh boy, Scotty might go full boogeyman like we've never seen here before. But Ross, Valhalla as a whole for the major championship, obviously there's a lot of talking about the scores and comparatively the total score from the field to other major championships. It blows the rest of them out of the water. It's like a minus 200 differentiator. What I kind of take away from the course, also, by the way, the logistics of the tournament I heard were just an absolute nightmare. There were a couple people in the golf community who I follow that say, like, how to get into Valhalla was just, it wasn't planned properly. There was like one entrance, traffic was absolutely backed up. To see like Will Zalatoris, Cameron Young, and like 6 or 7 guys have to walk multiple hours to get to the course on the same day where someone was hit by a bus on that same road. Like, that's a situation that just absolutely cannot happen. That's one thing part of it. There's the Scottie Scheffler stuff. And then to me, I know there's not a lot that the golf course with modern technology and how good these guys are in soft conditions. Louisville got absolutely pummeled with rain the week before. There's only so much that they could do. I still felt like there just wasn't trouble out there for these guys. Was the biggest problem that I had with the course, Ross. And it felt like every situation where there could have been trouble, it wasn't like properly executed. Like number 2, for example, that creek on the left-hand side. Xander hit a snap hook on the second hole off the tee box on Sunday. But the ball got saved from going in that creek because all the rough right in front of it was like 5-6 inches long. That's where it was like the longest at. And I just don't understand why you would put that long rough there to basically save balls from going in the hazard at a major championship. Like, that didn't make sense to me. Also, even the bunkering on 18. Like, Bryson is the longest guy in this field, and he barely got in that bunker. Xander, one of the longest hitters on tour. That ball, like, it did obviously go into the bunker, but like, no one's going to reach those bunkers basically off the tee if Bryson's barely getting into it. Like, there were just structures that made it so there really weren't like double bogeys out there if you were one of the premier players. Like, if you're a PGA pro, yeah, you're going to struggle out there. And sure, some guys here and there did, but all in all, it just felt like the only way you were making bogey, Ross, or not making birdies is if you're missing 5 or 6 footers. Like, everyone was putting it in the same spot on the greens. The amount of long birdie putts that were going in was crazy. The amount of chip-ins that was going in was crazy. Like, there just wasn't enough variance out there is the problem to me. And I don't fully blame the setup. Like, I know they were limited in what they could do, and I just outlined some of the things they could have done better. But the other main takeaway that I had from this course, Ross, is just that the golf ball needs to get rolled back, man. These guys are too good. They're just very few courses out there that you can make difficult enough for these players where the winning score is going to be in the single digit under. And I think Valhalla is going to get a bad rap for it. Some of it's justified. Some of it to me is not. I thought this week a big takeaway that I had was that it's clear that they need to roll the golf ball back because there's 510, 515-yard par fours, and they're still not going to be a challenge to these guys the way they're able to hit the ball. I mean, a lot of Bryson, they're hitting 8-irons into these greens, man. It was just pretty clear to me that this course has just been surpassed by modern technology, and you can't place all of the blame on Valhalla, the PGA of America, and the setup that they put forth.
Well, obviously I am biased in this, but last year out here at Oak Hill, first of all, the logistics, everything, it was like a well-oiled machine. In and out, the shuttle buses, everything, the way everything was lined up. My whole family was out here, and we were basically planning to go to Valhalla based on our experience that it was immaculate out here, as well as the course setup. The course was difficult. The course showed why this is a major. In this case, I get it. It rained and it made it where guys could attack and not really risk anything because it's so wet, the ball's going to plug. But even if they had a dry spell of 3 weeks with no rain, people were going to go low on that course. It was just not set up correctly for these types of players, where even before the rain, the caddies and everyone were firing off. We could see 20 here.
Yeah. And it's
And
just not the
that's
test
not
that
a
us
major
true
championship
golfers.
score.
Exactly. It's just not, and it made for a good leaderboard. Like, I'm not trying to take away anything from that. The course produced a great leaderboard on Sunday, and that should be noted. But at the same point in time, we just, especially when the PGA has made a big time effort to make their tournaments more difficult. This type of thing just can't happen. It's not even just the winning score reaching minus 21, Ross. It's the total score of the entire field being 200 under par. I mean, it's completely unacceptable for a major championship, man.
Yeah, it was that. And, honestly, I kind of hated I mean, a simple switch that could have made it more interesting is the Sunday pin location for 13, the island. I felt like that should have been like the Thursday position.
Yeah, like at least bring the water into play. Like no one there wasn't an
Li-
option really.
Like if that had been the Thursday position, like the opening round, imagine how many guys you get to say fuck it, I'm gonna go for it because it's day one. If I put it in the water here, whatever, I got 3 more days to make it up. But like if I take the eagle here, like we're off to a hot start, especially if you started on the back nine. It's your 4th hole of the day and you already got an eagle on the card. I just felt the only one we saw was, Spieth put it in the water and then your boy Toasty just absolutely cranking it.
That was awesome, by the way. His reaction of going and getting the rangefinder and going to see where that bad boy was, and his reaction to see you put it to 6 feet, and then he's like, "I knew it. I knew I could do it." Toasty is an awesome dude.
I just feel like I get what they were trying to do, but the date choice for that whole location didn't make sense because if you had the guys you knew the guys at the top of the board weren't going to do that. They're all going to lay up and pitch it in there. Like if you did that on like Thursday when people are just starting off, you probably could just every other guy says, fuck it, I'm going to go for it.
There was no strategy involved in the hole. You know what I mean? When you don't make it accessible, then everyone just does the same thing. And everyone did do the same thing except for 2 guys, like you said, the entire week. And it was kind of sad because the PGA Tour even posted a video on its social channels of like behind the strategy behind 13. And they like literally low key like made it prove itself that there was no strategy there. Everyone just hits the same shot. Like there were those too many. That problem was too evident on too many golf holes that were getting the same looks from the same amount of guys. There's no challenge there. They're all putting it to the same spot. The only challenge is, are you going to make the putt or not? That was really the whole question of the course. Are you going to make your putts or are you not? Because everyone's putting this bad boy to within 40 feet. Who's making the big time putts really is what determined it. And Xander, to his credit, stood up there and hit big time putts, especially on the back nine, the 18th. He had to go and make his putts, but that's the exact same thing that kept Colin Morikawa out of the day. What did he do? He didn't make his putts on Sunday. That was the determinator of this course, and that can't be the terminating factor at a major championship.
No.
So hopefully
it was a miss, and it's nothing against Valhalla, just the way it's set up, the way it plays, it was a miss. Yeah. So on to Quail Hollow.
On to Quail Hollow next year. Hopefully the old US Open at Pinehurst #2 will provide a little bit more carnage than we saw this week. What else do I got here from this tournament, Ross? Got some shout outs. Dietrich played well. Taylor Moore, Dean Burmester, Lee Hodges gave us a couple of fist pumps there on the back. Good to see randomly Lee Hodges pop up in the top 12 there.
He was a talk of working in the urology clinic. Lee Hodges passing a kidney stone earlier this week, and then
I couldn't even imagine, brother. Couldn't even imagine. That might be worse than what Scottie had to go through. Kidney stone and then go and play. That might be more impressive what Lee Hodges did than what Scottie did this week, quite honestly. Good for him. Anything else you got from the PGA Championship? I think we covered basically everything. I have about 20 things written down that I have checked off here. Was there anything I forgot, Ross?
Not really, man. There was a lot to cover this week. The leaderboard, it was nice to see those names back. It did feel like a true championship. I just wish the numbers next to the names were a lot lower.
Yes, completely agreed. I feel like Valhalla, I don't know if we're going to see it for a PGA Championship again. I feel like it could be a Ryder Cup venue, though.
Yes.
I completely agree. We'll see what ends up happening there. A couple other shout-outs in the golf world that I wanted to be sure to give. How about Harry Higgs? Baby, what a chippin' that was a Corn Ferry Tour event, correct?
Yes.
Yes, needed an eagle on the last hole, about 60 yards off of the green, and I wish I had the name right now, but someone posted an excellent video on social media of like a low green angle of the ball just trickling all the way up and falling for Harry Higgs. Winds up winning that bad boy in a playoff. Happy for Harry Higgs. Always enjoy seeing him have success because he is one of the best guys. Whenever he comes on TV, he gives you something to watch. And I've learned from following him in person, he is a fiery guy out there too. If things aren't going well for Harry, you're going to hear about it. So entertaining whether things are going good or bad, but happy to see him get a win like that, man. You know that's big for him.
Oh, absolutely. And it was cool to see the little moment where he actually just got married like 2 weeks ago or whatever. And it was the first tournament he was playing with his new wife. So always cool to see like those little things when it all culminates into one big moment that he gets a big W and he's got his brand new bride and everything. So that's obviously a moment that they'll never forget.
Absolutely. And he's been a guy who's been grinding, been outside the top 125, inside the top 125 these last couple of years. But is capable of having those like pop up high end finishes. I swear, whenever you expected the least, it's like, oh, Harry Higgs finished T16. Good for him. So good to see him get a win. Also had to give a shout out to Braden Shattuck, who finished as the low pro at the PGA Championship this year. Also, I do apologize for what happened to your boy Blocky this year, Ross. I do sincerely apologize that things did not go as well as they did for him last year. But for Braden Shattuck, what a day for him. Not only does he get the low am, he gets up there on the stage with champion Xander Schauffele and gets his own trophy. He goes and drives 11 hours out of Louisville to a U.S. Open qualifier, shoots bogey-free 63, and wins that bad boy. How about a 24-hour stretch there from Braden Shattuck, Ross?
Just absolutely thrilled for Braden Shattuck. What an amazing performance. And you know what? Let's give a good on tap shout out to Taylor Gooch. Congratulations on your T60, buddy.
Great point. We did forget something about the PGA Championship. Is that no one gave a shit about Taylor Gooch the entire time because every time I saw him, he was like even, -1,
Yep.
+1. They gave him the opportunity. There wasn't going to be an asterisk next to Xander Schauffele's name this year because Taylor Gooch, of course, made his way into the field from an invite from the PGA of America. Didn't really do much of it and could have really given himself some wind in his sails if he even finished inside like the top 25. Like, I'm not talking about a top 10, but you finish in the top 25, you feel a little bit justified that you are one of the best players in the world, as he kind of claims or seems to think that he is. Was not relevant once throughout the course of this tournament. I don't think anyone's even going to remember that Taylor Gooch was here when we go and recap this tournament in 1 year's time, Ross.
Yeah, you know what? Congrats, Taylor. You think you're a world top 25. Well, you almost finished 25 strokes off the lead, my friend. So
Yeah, pretty far back was Mr. Taylor Gooch. But yeah, lots of different stories going on in the world of golf right now. One that we definitely got to cover here real quick before moving on to the Charles Schwab Challenge this week, Ross, is Mark Flaherty resigning from the PGA Tour Policy Board. The second notable name that we've heard resign in the past couple of weeks. You've kind of been the guy who's really been in the nitty gritty here of what's been going on behind these merger talks and the direction things are going. What's kind of the significance behind Mark Flaherty resigning in your mind? Can you kind of talk about that to the people?
So the biggest vibe that we've been getting with these guys stepping down is they just don't feel included in these decisions. And it's become very player centric. And I don't think that's a bad thing that the players are involved. What I think needs to be considered is you can't have just the players going and doing this and getting this done. You need board members. You need the suits and ties for the PGA Tour to be involved in this in some capacity. This is a business. It is a business now. It needs to be treated like a business. You don't just let your employees go and dictate how your business runs. No successful business has ever run that way. In the vibe we're getting from a lot of these guys, especially the big one was Jimmy Dunn leaving.
Yeah.
And part of Jimmy Dunn's reasoning is the players are doing all this. My vote is for naught when I am brought to the table. Yes, I helped get everything to this point, but it's been 11 months now where my vote just doesn't really mean for anything. It's a fart in the wind for him. It's gone. It's gone. The players have taken control, and I think we need to reel it back a little bit. I think we have the right group going over with Tiger, Rory, and Adam Scott. I think that is a very good group to start to represent the players, not to represent the whole PGA Tour.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point that you bring up there. And it does kind of just give the vibes right now that the players feel like they're the ones that are going to get this thing finalized. And while we do need players involved, I don't know that it should be only players involved because, like you said, I don't know how many companies out there have their employees running the big time decisions that the suits should be making. So, yeah, definitely not the best sign that the second major member of the PGA Tour Policy Board, the second non-player major, resigns from there. We'll see what ends up happening, and seems like guys are just dropping like flies. So we'll see if there's any news on anyone happening next or what the next step of these discussions are being. Because, like I said earlier, I thought final round of the PGA Championship was pretty apparent that they need to get something done as soon as possible. Nothing new that we're preaching here on the show. But Ross, before we wrap things up, we do got the Charles Schwab Challenge this week, my friend. I'm going to be boots on the ground there at Colonial Country Club, which I'm very excited for. It actually was kind of the starting spot, funny enough, of my golf fandom. So kind of cool to tie a bow on that and go to Colonial Country Club for the first time in my life in Fort Worth, Texas here this week. I'll be traveling early tomorrow morning. Excited to see everything in person and a pretty decent field that we got on tap. I know we made the jokes earlier that Victor Hovland withdrew, but Wesley Bryan's going to be in, so maybe there's an uptick. But we still have Scottie Scheffler, the boogeyman, as from what it seems right now. Sounds like he's going to be there. Obviously, the extenuating circumstances surrounding that make it interesting. There were rumors earlier in the day that those charges were going to be dropped. It doesn't sound like that's the case any longer, and he is still scheduled to have to go back to Louisville, Kentucky, albeit it is after the conclusion of this tournament now. So we'll see what ends up happening there. But Colin Morikawa is back here this week. Also is Max Homa, who's got some pretty good course history around this place. Siwoo Kim, Minwoo Lee, Brian Harmon, 10 of the top 30, Tony Finau in the official world golf ranking are at Colonial Country Club this week. It's a new look Colonial Country Club, by the way, as it has been restored by Gil Hans, the same man who was in charge of doing the restoration for Southern Hills for the 2022 PGA Championship, as well as LACC for last year's U.S. Open. He's a noted golf architect, and it doesn't sound like he's going to be making any major changes, Ross. He's just more so was tasked with kind of bringing this place back to what it originally was when it was designed. So there's not going to be anything too crazy. It is going to play 89 yards longer, but some greens have kind of been moved around a little bit. Some sight lines have been recreated. I do feel like it's going to play essentially as the same type of tournament, but you never know. There are going to be some new little nuances that I'm excited to go see, but yeah, excited to see this place in person, man. Super fortunate for this opportunity going back to Texas for the second time within a month here. I know it's obviously early on this Monday afternoon, and I am going to be having a show with Joey Ricotta later on this week, going through finalized picks and a deeper course breakdown. But before we wrap things up, Ross, as always, anyone that is kind of catching your eye early on in the week in the outright betting board as you look to go back-to-back following a Xander Schauffele victory last week?
So this week I kept it very simple. I have 5 players that I have spread $20 on. We're going to keep it light and simple after last week. Last week took a lot out of me over the course of 4 days of chasing down some big money. So we're just going to play it nice and simple this week. I have 5. They're in, they're locked. I got my numbers.
Love it.
First of all, right off the top, very enlightening performance for me at PGA. If he can drop putts, I think we're looking at a potential runaway because has had success at this course before. I have Tony Finau at 28-1.
Yeah, man. Tony absolutely lit the course on fire last week in terms of his approach. Was number 1 in the field in strokes gained approach. Just couldn't make a putt. But like you said, has a lot of good track record around here, and it's just going to come down to whether or not he's making them. But he's striking the ball so well. Very popular option I've seen so far early on this week. I do like that pick, and I've hovered around Finau myself. Who else you got?
After that, we're going just a little bit further down. We're always on him, and I'm just going to continue to ride until he breaks through, because the game is there and the numbers add up. It's just a matter of time, really, in my mind, until he comes through. I do have Siwoo Kim on there at 30-1. That the course just kind of, the course again just fits his game. It's, does he show up and play his game? Because every other time we seem to throw him on the card, he just seems to have the off week, and then it's every week that we don't have him is when he's floating around the top of the leaderboard. So this week I'm going to ride with it. That again, we're in Texas, where he seems to always kind of pull a decent game together, and the course fits his game really well. So I like the number. I like the nice round 30 for Siwoo Kim.
Yeah, and a Dallas native, by the way. So obviously there's a little bit of familiarity down there, as Tee to Green has been excellent here as of late. So yeah, I do completely understand that pick. Feels like Siwoo has just been kind of creeping all year long.
After that, we move a little bit further down. This number has been mashed down. I got distracted for a few hours earlier at work. And when I logged back on, I had to put my bet in immediately because he got hammered down, and I was very mad that I didn't pull the trigger early this morning. I do have Tom Hoge at 40-1.
Oh, I got him at 55, baby. I knew it was going to get mashed this morning, so I jumped on that one as soon as I could. Feels like, despite not having a good track record at this course whatsoever, feels like a perfect Tom Hoge spot. I mean, approach, putting, those are really the two main parts to this course. It's a second shot course. He's been the best iron player in the world this year, not named Scottie Scheffler, second on the tour in approach. And I believe in 11 of 15 starts this year, he's gained over 3 strokes to the field on approach shots. So I'm aboard with you on Tom Hoge buns.
After that, we're going to go with another Texas native. The driving and the putting are there. It depends if he can hit an iron to save his life or not.
Thomas Dietrich?
No. We're in the ballpark there, though. But I'm gonna ride the Texas vibes that he tends to fly up the leaderboards here. I have Mav McNeely at 55-1 on my card.
Everyone just ignore that. Ross said Texas native, and I said Thomas Dietrich because he's from Belgium. So I apologize there. But yeah, Mav, no, that is a great point that you bring up. Second shots. Can he be good with his irons? We know he's going to be good with the putting. I have seen love for Mav this week as well. What'd you get him at, 70?
55.
55, okay. I still don't hate that number.
And then the last one was another one that I looked at this morning, and he was way up there. And then I looked back a couple hours later and went, shit. I have Mark Hubbard currently at 75 now. I know he was way down there. So yeah, a little disappointed that I did not pull the trigger this morning, but I do have Mark Hubbard to round out my card.
Yeah, Hoge and Hubbard were the two guys I jumped on like first thing this morning. I got Mark at 110, and I knew it was going to get bet down. So I've only made 3 clicks so far. I'm still kind of figuring things out, but I have an idea where I want to go. But Hoge in at 55-1, Mark Hubbard in at 110-1. Justin Rose in at 60-1 as well. Has won here before. Really good bent grass putter. I just saw good things from him out of the weekend, and quite honestly, this is, oddly enough, it's been like a veteran's track in terms of guys who have won here. It feels like he not necessarily need experience, but that's kind of what it suggested over the last few years. So I don't hate Justin Rose at that 60-1 number, but some guys who I'm thinking about here early on in the week, I have thought about Tony Finau. I believe he opened at 33. Even if he gets bet down to 28, I still think that's a more than fair number for his capabilities. Christian Bezadenhout is someone who I've thought about as well. Really good irons, really good putting. Quietly has been good all season long. And also, guy who I nearly got my heart ripped out by last time I was in Texas. I never bet this guy, but I've been saying I could see him winning this year. I said it at the end of last year. Denny McCarthy, man. The putting just...
I did a really long look at Denny today.
Like if 60-1 with his putting, he's capable, man. He's more than capable of knocking something down. It feels like only a matter of time. So those are kind of the guys who I'm hovering around. As I mentioned earlier, going to be going live tomorrow with Joey Ricotta to finalize our picks for this week's Charles Schwab Challenge. Going to be boots on the ground, getting there tomorrow morning. Super excited to see what this course has in store, man. It's been a place that I've been wanting to go to the last couple of years. Super fortunate that finally it's going to be able to happen. So make sure to go and give me a follow on X for coverage from this week's Charles Schwab Challenge at Jack Bushman 2. Make sure to go and give Ross a follow as well. You can find him at RossJohn22 and show some support to the pages, to the podcast's page at On Tap Golf as well. If you don't already, make sure to go and follow us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can catch up on all of the latest episodes if you're not able to join us live. And if you are thinking about placing a wager down on this week's Charles Schwab Challenge, you're not already a member over at Bet Rivers, make sure to use the promo code ONTAP to get up to a $250 bonus with your first deposit. As always, from Jack Bushman and Ross Baran, thank you to everyone for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Crack 'em, lock 'em. Hope everyone enjoyed their PGA Championship. We'll see you next time.